Hi guys, hope you're well. So today I want to speak about influencer brand values and what they really mean and how they can align to your own brand values as well. So a big part of marketing is based around brand values and how brand values can really go into every marketing kind of material, into the brand ethos, the way that the brand does business, and just so much more. A great example of this can be seen in Dove, where Dove has a lot of great brand values around kind of body positivity, inclusivity, and you see that in the way they do business, in the initiatives that they do, like going out to schools and kind of providing young children who are teenagers or like even younger with kind of training and workshops around kind of self-image and self-esteem, and it's a great way of kind of bringing everything together. Influence marketing is no different. So every influencer has their own kind of brand values, I guess. There are things that they stand for, there are things that they believe in, there are things that they've kind of come across. When you think about influencer marketing, think about the influencer's brand values and also your own brand values and how they can both merge, because when you think about things in that way, you really kind of pick the right influencers to really work with your brand properly and correctly, rather than it just being a kind of random collaboration. And I think the best kind of influencer marketing campaigns or projects are always often the ones that have alignment between kind of influencer brand values and also your own brand values. So for example, an influencer who is vegan, for example, and a brand, for example, that might be a vegan kind of like sweet treats company. Obviously you can quite clearly see the brand values on both sides, so you get a good feel of where they kind of work out and where they really work well. But some of them might not be as kind of obvious, I say. So sometimes with like self-esteem, body image, it's like super easy. It just works really well because you can tell the influencers are really passionate about it, and you can obviously see it all across their timeline or their feed. So you can definitely get a good gauge. Sometimes it cannot be very obvious. Sometimes what influencers will actually do is like speak about things on their stories sometimes, because it might not be something that kind of aligns fully with the aesthetics of their like normal feed. So they might talk about things and you have to be like really alert to these things or be following them to kind of like understand these things, because sometimes they aren't even highlighted. So for example, around like domestic abuse, a lot of influencers are really kind of passionate about changing it. So you don't know what kind of values people have sometimes, unless you're kind of watching through stories and things like that. So it might be that an influencer is really passionate about kind of climate change and things like that, but it's something that's important to them, but they don't sometimes show it on their kind of main feed. So I think sometimes it's a really easy mix, and you can really easily find like influencer brand values and just like pair them up really fast. Sometimes it's really hard and you kind of got to do a bit more investigative reporting and investigative analysis to kind of get to the point where you need to be. So hopefully then you can kind of find that perfect person. Someone talks about climate change on their stories, but they don't talk about it on their main feed. So it might be that if you are a organisation or if you are a brand that is kind of like focusing on climate change and how to combat it, it might be that you ask that influencer to do that on their stories rather than on their main feed. That means that at least you get that exposure in the right place, and you know that obviously the audience that are watching those stories are obviously really aligned to them. So you know that that's the right placement for it, because I think like the things that influencers do, and depending on like that, I'm looking at Instagram stories, but also in terms of different platforms. So I think TikTok is a great example where a lot of people kind of open up about things that they perhaps would not on Instagram, or they wouldn't even talk about on Instagram, but they open up about things like abuse and things like that, and really like hard things that they're going through. Like it might be like miscarriages, losses and things like that, and maybe they don't want that on their like pretty feed on Instagram. So it's just about really understanding the placement as well, and really to understand how you can kind of get a good gauge of where your content or where your sponsored content would lie correctly, and how you can really kind of optimize it to get to the best audience. Hopefully that helps.